Welcome to Nakamichi Spoken Here, number 6. This is our summer 1977. This is Haran K. Appleman, Technical Director of Nakamichi Research, U.S.A. I suppose you've all had the chance now to wind down after the CES. Most of you were able to attend our CES show, and those of you who did know that we had a number of new things to introduce at our private showing at the Bismarck Hotel. There was nothing in the way of major new products, but we did have our new crystal permalloy superhead and also a group of new peripheral equipment, including some microphones, some walnut cabinets for the 400 and 600 series components, and a professional carrying case for the 1000 and for the 700, MC 500 moving coil cartridges, a lower priced version of our existing MC 1000, and a new digital timer, the DS 200. Well, these are the newest products that we've introduced. However, I want to spend this tape discussing something that we introduced, some products which we introduced earlier in the year. Mainly in February, we announced the Mark II versions of the 1000 and 700. We announced the 410 preamplifier, the 420 power amplifier, and the 630 tuner preamp, and the bridging adapter for our power amplifiers. I want to cover these topics because there still seems to be a lot of questions, and many questions from our customers and from our dealers with respect to these new products, and I hope that in the course of this tape I'll be able to answer most of these questions that arise. First of all, let me discuss the 1000 and 700 Mark II. And I have to recount to you a little story that I heard through one of our customers who went to one of our dealers here in New York, and the dealer told him that the only difference between the old 1000s and 700s and the new Mark II version were the face plates and some cosmetic changes, and aside from that there wasn't much else different. The insides were all the same. Well, needless to say, this dealer was grossly misinformed, and he knows who he is, so we know who he is, and we have developed a new accommodation purchasing plan for him. He'll be able in the future to buy Nakamichi products at twice the suggested retail price from now on. But seriously, I want to point out that there are a lot of differences, both inside and outside, between the Mark II machines and the older ones. Of course, improvement in our machines is a matter of course. All our machines undergo continuous improvement. When a customer asks me, will I be benefiting by waiting to buy my Nakamichi, I tell them, well, in a way, yes, because I can say at any time, truthfully, that the longer you wait, the better the Nakamichi will be by the time you buy it. And that's just the way it is in our company. Improvement is just a natural matter of course. However, the improvements in the Mark II machines, there were enough of them, and they were of significant importance that we felt justified in putting the Mark II designation on these new machines. In a nutshell, the main improvement in the new machines is greater dynamic range overall. And this is something you can prove for yourself by recording on the machine. You could do it best by recording live, but if you have some good wide dynamic range source material, maybe if you have any master tapes or some of the new direct disc recordings are quite good, you can prove that the machines in fact do have wider dynamic range. You can record higher on them. The meters, of course, go to +10, and as is the case in the 600, you'll find that with the new 1000 and 700 Mark II machines, you can kick that record level up a lot higher before reaching audible saturation and loss of highs. Now, the improvement in dynamic range is a result of a combination of things, but it's mainly the new electronics and the new playback head in the 1000 and 700 Mark II. Both the new electronics and the playback head are better matched to today's best tape formulations, the most advanced tape formulations available today. Plus, we have phase correction in the electronics of the 1000 and 700 Mark II. We have just overall lower noise and a lower distortion in the electronics throughout. I just want to say a little bit about phase correction. As most of you know, we originally introduced this idea of phase correction in our Model 600, and in the 1700 Mark II machines, we also have playback phase-corrected circuitry for the first time. There's a lot of work being done on the audibility of phase shifts, of frequency-dependent phase shifting. And although it's still a relatively controversial subject in that there are no definite answers, we feel that whether or not pure phase shifts are audible as phase shifts, they can have an effect on other circuits. For example, well, in the case of the 600, the phase shifts would cause the IM suppressor circuit to work improperly, so it was very important that we had phase correction in that machine. Same thing can be said for Dolby circuits to a large extent. Dolby circuits can be fooled, or they can misbehave if the phase conditions are not right. And therefore, although phase shifts themselves may be difficult to hear, they can have an audible effect in an indirect way, and so they are important to correct, and that's why the new machines have the phase correction. And I do want to mention, by the way, that the IM suppressor is not in the 1700 Mark II machines. I think this is one of the things that we get asked most often. The IM suppressor, as I've explained in previous tapes, is a circuit which benefits a two-head design, because the two-head design is by nature a compromised design. It has to record and play back with the same head. The IM suppressor will help a two-head machine just give it that little extra bit of output, maximum output level in the mid-range area, and help it lower the saturation distortions. But in a three-head machine, there is very little benefit to adding the IM suppressor circuitry, and that's why you won't find it on the 1700 Mark II machines. Here again, there's been a lot of confusion. Some customers have called me and said that some dealer told them that the IM suppressor was permanently built into the new Mark II machines, and it was on all the time. Well, this is not the case. IM suppressor just doesn't do anything for three-head machines, and it's not in there, and there's no point to having it in there. There are other improvements, of course. There are many internal improvements. The transport is quite new. It's still basically a two-motor closed-loop differential drive capstan transport, but we have faster wind. At its fastest point, it's about 50% faster than the older machines. And just overall, we have fewer moving parts, so the transport runs smoother, and there is greater overall reliability. Even though the wind is very fast, it's still very gentle on the tapes, in that it's really a novel design. It's an ingenious mechanical design which automatically slows down the wind of the tape toward the very end, just enough so that the tape won't get ripped off from the hub. Also, in the way of internal improvements, we have new mic preamps. For example, the mic preamps have greater dynamic range than before, and once again, just lower noise and distortion all around. And the headphone amplifier has been boosted in power level. We now get almost half a watt per channel into 8-ohm headphones, which is much higher than we had before in the 1000 or 700. In fact, now the output of the power of the headphone power amplifier is about the same as the headphone amplifier in the 550 machine. Externally, of course, you can see right away that we have new meters that have expanded range to plus 10 dB, and this reflects the improved dynamic range in the machine. But we also have separate bias and EQ selector switches, which gives you much greater flexibility with some of today's more advanced tapes and some of tomorrow's tapes as well. We've added a window to the cassette lid on the 1000. We've enlarged the window on the 700. And we've brought, on both machines, we have brought all the record level calibration controls to the front panel, making it much easier to access. This is an important enough calibration and something that has to be done often enough that it really belongs on the front panel, and that's why we've made the change on these new machines. We have, of course, eliminated the limiter. As you've noticed, perhaps on the new 1700 Mark II machines, we feel that the limiter circuit is no longer necessary because of the extended dynamic range. Let me now move on to the 410 and 420 power amplifiers, the preamp and power amp. This is a series that has a number of goals, and what we were aiming for was simplicity. Simplicity both in the design and in operation. And we were aiming for compactness, and of course we were aiming for very, very high performance. And then of course we were aiming for a very good cost versus performance factor. In fact, we've been criticized that the 410 and 420 cost too little and that we should really charge more for it because people don't take them seriously enough. Well, this might be the case, but we don't really have any plans for jacking up the prices on these units. We feel we're offering a good value, and we've never priced a component based on political factors like that. It's the cost on our product has always reflected the cost of manufacture and development. The 410 has a novel phono circuit, and this is the same phono circuit as in the 610 control preamplifier that we introduced last year. It's the same, but instead of a impedance selector switch, we have a sensitivity selector switch, which we feel gives you allows you to use a greater variety of cartridges. We have a 1, 2, and 5 millivolt position. The phono circuit is distinguished by its very, very low noise. In fact, frankly, I don't know of a preamp on the market, regardless of price, that can beat the phono signal noise specification of the 410 or the 610 or the I'll get to it later, but the 630 for that matter. We have an 80 dB signal noise ratio. This is IHFA weighted, but this is referenced to 1 millivolt. Most manufacturers reference their signal noise specification to 10 millivolts, and if we did that, in our case, we'd get a signal noise ratio in excess of 100 dB. Distortion is typically under 0.003 in the phono circuit, and in fact, all the way through the preamp, up to 20 kilohertz, the distortion is typically under 0.003. Of course, I realize that signal noise and distortion specifications only tell you so much about a phono preamplifier. I happen to think that our phono preamp is also one of the better sounding ones, best sounding ones on the market, and of course that you have to judge for yourself. The phono preamp in the 410 incorporates an active subsonic filter, which can be switched in and out from the front panel. Most filters you find, subsonic filters you find in preamplifiers, are not active. They're just RC networks that roll off the bottom end. They do not really give you a fast cutoff, a sharp cutoff. But we have a special transistor circuit in the 410, which is placed right after the phono circuit, which gives you a cutoff which starts at 30 hertz. There's almost no effect at 30 cycles, but by 10 cycles, it is down by 45 dB. 45 dB down to 10 cycles. So as you can see, it's a fairly sharp cutoff. And 10 cycles is usually where most of your subsonic warp resonances and tone arm cartridge resonances occur. So this is an important frequency to have as much attenuation as possible. And of course, as I mentioned before, the subsonic filter is switchable, and this is a good feature to have. Occasionally you run into a record that has material way down there, like maybe organ notes or something like that would require that you defeat the subsonic filter in order to reproduce it. Although this is kind of academic, because the fact of the matter is there are very few speakers that can reproduce much below 30 cycles, and then much more importantly than that, there are very few rooms in which you can reproduce much below 30 cycles. We also have a full defeat capability of the tone controls. We have the bass and treble controls. Of course, they're the step type, but we have the tone defeat button, which is not just a flat position, but it actually completely bypasses the tone control circuitry to make the 410 a true flat amplifier. And we have a contour control. The contour control is in place of the more common loudness compensator switch. It works much better than the loudness switch because it doesn't depend on any setting of the volume control. You just turn down the volume with the contour control, and it achieves the loudness compensation automatically. Then there are a lot of other extras in the 410 that you can't see. For example, we use a precision stepped attenuator for the volume control, not just a click-stop potentiometer. This is a true precision resistor. We use metal film precision resistors in all the important circuits in the 410 to give us as much precision as possible and best noise figure. And we have a very high output headphone output jack incorporated into the 410. Delivers a maximum of 300 milliwatts per channel into 8 ohms. Now the matching power amplifier features the same, the complete mirror push-pull circuitry, the complementary output B-class output circuitry, which we introduced originally on the 620. This circuit is often discussed, and many people have asked me, why did Nakamichi use a Class B design? Well, first of all, I'd like to say this is not just any Class B design. This is quite a unique one. I wrote a technical bulletin on the amplifier, on the 620 power amplifier circuit, which of course applies to the 420 circuit as well. And anybody who wants some technical details on our circuitry should refer to that technical bulletin. I believe it's number 8. On the market these days, you have Class A amplifiers making a bid. There's still some people who are claiming tubes are the answer. And then there's the vertical FET, there's the Class G amplifier, Class D amplifier. It's very confusing. I think what you have to tell your customers is that Class A doesn't always mean better than Class B, or vice versa. Class D doesn't mean better than Class B, Class A. It's all these things refer to the type of circuit, and the thing to really drive home to the customers is that it's how each of these circuit designs are executed that makes a difference in overall outcome, overall performance. Each of the classes, each of the type of circuits has something to offer. Class A offers freedom from so-called crossover or notch distortion. However, it's extremely inefficient, as most of you know. You can have an amplifier the size of a grand piano, and it'll put out 20-30 watts per channel. Now, we aimed for a lot of things when we designed a power amplifier. We wanted, of course, an amplifier that looked good under conventional measurements, distortion, noise, so forth. But we also had an amplifier that had to pass some very critical listening tests. Also, it had to be fairly compact. It had to be efficient and not generate a lot of heat, because a lot of heat means that you're potentially shortening the life of your transistors. You're inviting solid-state transistor failure if you have too much heat dissipation. So we wanted an efficient circuit that didn't take up a lot of space, and what we came up with is our complete mirror push-pull circuit. It's an unusual Class B circuit in that, compared to most other Class B push-pull designs, it uses much lower idling current. It doesn't depend on a lot of idling current to cancel out this notch distortion. It operates much cooler than other Class B designs, and uses very low negative feedback throughout, which is important to have low transient intermodulation distortion as possible. And of course, the specs of the 420 look very good. With our spectrum analyzer, we've measured distortion levels under 0.000. This is 0.0008. That's 8 parts per million. That's total harmonic distortion, typically. And signal-to-noise ratio is better than 110 dB, reference to the rated output. And of course, the sound quality is extremely important in any of these electronic designs, and we invite comparison of the 420, even to power amplifiers that not just cost more, but are rated at higher power. Of course, the 420 is rated at 50 watts per channel, but we feel that it competes very well, even when you're driving some of the more inefficient loudspeakers that are on the market. The other features of the 420 to point out are unconditional load stability. The amplifier is very stable. It's fully protected without the use of relays or circuit breakers in the output stages. It has a very large capacity single power supply, and we use a toroidal core transformer, which has very low leakage and saves space. It does the job of transformers many times its size. Plus, we use about 44,000 microfarads of capacitance for filtering. Now, another question on the subject of power supplies that's often brought up is, why do we use a single power supply? These days, you have a lot of manufacturers boasting about the independent power supply, one power supply for each channel. Well, there are a lot of technical reasons for this, and the technical bulletin that I referred to earlier covers this subject. But simply, we have found in our research that for any given amount of space, cabinet space, and also cost, it is much more effective in terms of performance and to design one large power supply than it is to have two smaller power supplies. From a simplistic point of view, you can tell that the single large power supply will have that 2 times the capacity, which will be available to either channel at any given moment, so that if one channel demands more power than the other, that amount of power, which would normally not be available with the independent power supplies, could go to that channel that needs it. But more importantly is the internal impedance of the power supply. The power supply impedance is seen in series with the load impedance of the amplifier. And it's important to keep the power amplifier internal impedance as low as possible. And larger the power supply, basically speaking, the lower the internal impedance, and this is desirable. Now, somebody could argue, well, we're not talking about putting two smaller power supplies in place of one large power supply. We're talking about making two large power supplies, each one of them the same as the original single power supply. Well, our answer to that is if you're going to go and increase the cabinet size to put two large power supplies in there, once again, it's better to build one single power supply twice the size of the original and gain that much more reduction in the internal impedance of the power supply. Well, this gets fairly technical, but I think those of you who want to pursue it further can refer to the technical bulletin and get some more answers. Now we have the BA100 bridging adapter, which can be used with our 620 power amplifier and our 420 power amplifier. The 620, when bridged for monaural operation, will deliver 350 watts minimum into 8 ohms with virtually no degradation of performance when compared to the normal stereo mode. In fact, in the bridged mode, the 620 at 350 watts is still under 0.002% distortion, under 0.005% at 20 kilohertz. The 420 will deliver 120 watts in the monaural mode using the BA100 bridging adapter. But of course, this is not necessarily practical. Instead of buying two 420s and a bridging adapter, the person's probably better off buying a 620 in the first place. However, of course, you do have the capability of well, a person who buys one 420 can later add a second 420 to get increased power. Now, there is a limitation in that the bridged amplifiers, either the 620 or the 420, cannot drive speakers rated at less than 8 ohms. Now, the adapter, the BA100 bridging adapter, takes care of both power amplifiers. That means you use one bridging adapter for two power amplifiers, so you can get a complete stereo setup using one 410, for example, and two 620s, or the number of other combinations which are possible. Now, a little bit about the 630 FM tuner preamp. The tuner preamp is moving very well, and all over the country the reaction has been quite good. At the private shows around the country in February when we introduced the 630, I joked that the looks alone will probably sell it, and in fact it has already won a design award at this past CES. But I think time will bear out the fact that in fact it has just more than good looks going for it. The preamp section of the 630 FM tuner preamp is same as the 410, except that it has no subsonic filter. This was basically a cost factor decision, and of course it has no tone defeat circuit, although it has the same tone controls. It doesn't have a step-type attenuator. We have a regular potentiometer for the volume control. But it does, in place, have facilities for two tape decks, and there's an independent copying capability. And of course, it has the same contour control as the 410. And most importantly, it has the same great phono circuit that the 410 and the 610 has. Now, the FM section is a very good FM tuner, basically, what it comes down to. There are many good tuners on the market today. I think what sets the 630 apart from the rest of them is extremely low distortion and also the unusual tuning system that we use. The 630 also includes a Dolby B-type circuit with the 25 microsecond de-emphasis, which is required for proper reception of Dolby FM broadcasts. The Dolby circuit is somewhat unique because most tuners and receivers may offer some type of feature for including or plugging in a decoder at some future date. However, very few have the Dolby B-type circuit built in, as it is in the 630. The B-type circuit in the 630, by the way, is of the highest quality. We don't use the integrated circuit. We use discrete components throughout. Now, in terms of the circuitry of the tuner section itself, we have a MOSFET, a very low noise dual gate MOSFET front end, which is fairly common these days in the highest quality tuners. But the IF stage is rather exceptional. We have a very, very low phase shift IF stage, which gives us extremely low distortion, especially in the normal selectivity mode. And of course, we have two selectivities available. If you're in a metropolitan area with a lot of stations very close together, you probably choose to use the higher selectivity, the 80 dB selectivity, which is the narrow position. And even in this position, the IF filter gives very, very low phase shift, resulting in low overall distortion. The multiplex demodulator section uses a phase lock loop circuit, which is important for the best possible separation, and of course stability, temperature stability, and so forth. Now, the sensitivity of the 630 may not be quite as high as some other tuners on the market. The 1.5 microvolt figure, which we originally quoted in that first leaflet, that spec sheet that we handed out, is not really in error, but it is a bit misleading, I have to admit, because what happened was that we first measured the sensitivity using the 75 ohm terminal, and that's how we got the 1.5 microvolt figure. At the 300 ohm terminal, which is what you're supposed to use according to the new IHF standard, the figure becomes 2.5 microvolts at 300 ohms. And so this is the when you're going to be comparing specifications, since most tuner manufacturers conform to the new IHF standard, the 2.5 microvolt figure is the one you should be comparing. Now, there's an argument about sensitivity, just how important is sensitivity, and it seems that when the customer comes in looking for a tuner or receiver, that one of the first things he asks about the tuner section is, what's the sensitivity? What's the sensitivity? And of course, this is a fairly meaningless specification in most cases, because this is the 30 dB quieting sensitivity, which is also known as the usable sensitivity figure, although some people call it the unusable sensitivity figure. Nobody listens to a station that has only 30 dB of quieting, and so this figure is fairly useless. Advent made a similar argument, which I agree with wholeheartedly, on their receiver, on the Advent receiver. They have a fairly low sensitivity, even lower than ours, and they argue that point quite well. Now, the question is, why did we make it a tuner preamp? Why is the 630 not just a tuner? Why does it have the preamp section built in? What do you say to the customer who's already bought the 610 and the 620 and he's been waiting for the tuner? Well, the customer who has the 610 probably enjoys the extra flexibility that the 610 has to offer, the large number of features, the inputs and outputs, and more than likely will be able to take advantage of the extra inputs and features that the 630 preamp section has to offer. There is some duplication, of course. There's an extra phono circuit, maybe a couple extra tape circuits that can't be used fully. However, the 630 does offer tone controls, contour control, which the 610 does not have. And so I think it's a good combination no matter how you look at it. For somebody who does want the tuner only, I'm allowed to sneak preview to you the 430, which we hope will be available around the fall of this year. The 430, of course, will be the same size as the 410 and 420, and it will be a tuner only in the same price ballpark as the rest of the 400 series components, so that the three pieces, the 410, 420, and 430, can be had for under $1,000 suggested retail. On side 2 of this tape, we once again have some more demonstration material. This is taken from the recording done in Bahia, Brazil, by a customer of ours named Jim Metzner. He's in Boston. He went to Brazil with a Nakamichi 550 and did some recordings on location, which are now in fact available on a record which his company makes. The recordings are quite spectacular, and I have excerpted a number of them with his kind permission, for the demonstration material this time. Those of you who are interested in getting samples of this record, either for yourself or to sell in your store, can contact Jim Metzner directly. Included with this tape will be a leaflet, a flyer, describing how you can order this record. The tape on the recording on side 2 of this tape is not from the record, it's directly from his master tape, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, I think that's about all the tape I have this time, so I want to encourage all of you to write into me with questions, call me, whatever. I'll be here in the New York office for most of the summer, I hope, and please let me know if you have any comments or questions regarding any of the subjects here. I hope to have another Nakamichi Spoken Here available soon on the newest products and concepts that we've introduced over this past month. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Nakamichi Spoken Here.
Agora que vai começar o samba enredo da Bahia, na Praça Terreiro de Jesus. Isso aqui é só pra ver se o samba vai embora, hein? Martinho Noviola, Vermelho do Pandeiro, Birimbau da Tabaque. A baiana me pega, me joga na lama, eu não sou camarão, camarão me chama. Lelele, oh lelele. A baiana me pega, me joga na lama, eu não sou camarão, camarão me chama. Lelele, baiana. A baianinha deu sinal. Lelele, a baiana me pega, me joga na lama, eu não sou camarão, camarão me chama. Lelele, baiana. A baianinha deu sinal. Lelele, baiana. Tá na hora. Agora a gente vai encerrar o negócio. Um samba enredo, uma história maior de capoeira da Bahia, os moricanos. Só o ritmo do samba, meu irmão, vamos embora. Adeus, adeus, eu vou me embora. Eu vou com Deus, Nossa Senhora. Adeus, adeus, eu vou me embora. Eu vou com Deus, Nossa Senhora. Adeus, adeus, eu vou me embora. Eu vou com Deus. belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho, é um belezazinho. É um belezazinho, 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 é um belezazinho. Agora você.
Qual é a posição? Botar aí.
Agora atrás, aqui, rapaz.
Não, vai, não vou esperar mil contar com o nome. Você vai, doido? Não, doido?
O carreiro não saiu.
Hum?
O carreiro não saiu, que ele vai.
Olha lá o menino, olha lá, Palito.
Oi?
Olha aí mesmo.
Esse aí. Aí no quartinho aí, vai entrar na. Ah, tá aberto aí. O carreiro não saiu, não pra botar os cocos lá pra dentro.
É. Pra eu sair?
Não, os carreiros não saem.
Ah.
Não, ela tá medo.
Rock lá! Zero ponto, fechou.
Por ponto, rapaz.
Agora você precisa passar.
Não, agora não.
Agora não foi, não. Agora aí,
Eu sabia que era por ponto, eu tava vendo. Aí eu tava vendo a jogada. Aí eu tava vendo a jogada.
Ave Maria é 5 mano.
Eu não tava olhando, não.
É 4, né? 5.
5 por quê?
Era 6.
Tá, tipo,
2 reais.
para o senhor.
Ó, louro, chama a galinha. boca linda. Tchu, 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 tchu. Tá invocado. Tá invocado. Tá invocado. Tá invocado.
O Brasil disse que tem. O Brasil disse que tem. Ai meu Deus, e o Japão disse que não. Uma espada poderosa pra brigar contra o alemão. Em meu nome agora eu vou pra o conselho militar. O exército está na guerra, ai meu desejo é lutar. O exército é de guerra, ai meu desejo é a marinha é de campanha. O bombeiro apaga o fogo, o estrangeiro é quem apanha. A maré que enche vaza, deixa a praia descoberta. Vai um amor embora vem outro, eu nunca vi coisa tão certa.